Dino made that call, 111 Tomcat ball, with his fuel weight, I recall. And I rogered the ball, and immediately I could tell he was just a little bit underpowered, so I gave him, you're a little slow, as I recall. 2 power calls, and then immediately it was 4 wave-off calls. Wave off, wave off, wave off. And when you hear the airplane, you can hear that TF-30 has a whistle about it. When that aircraft rolls back, that motor rolls back, you know you got to be on top of it immediately. And so while I did give him a little power, or you're underpowered, or a little slow call and a couple power calls, those 4 wave-off calls had to be acted upon immediately. Unfortunately, Matt had made up his mind that he's not going around. It's dark, and he did not want to go around that night. And he'd had a bad day and landed short, and he was going to use that same technique at night, and it just worked. It wasn't going to work out for him. And I can remember holding that handset in my hand, that pickle in my other hand, squeezing that pickle, turning those red lights on, which is a visual indication to the pilot to go around, immediately add full power. But I could hear that TF-30 rolling back, and it's just a whistle. You just hear it getting down, coming down, and I just could not believe what was happening in front of me. And I walked out to the length of the, I'll never forget, I walked out to the length of the headset cords, and the only thing that was holding me in position not to walk right out in the middle of the landing area was the fact that the tension on those cords were holding me into position right across the scupper. So I was out in the landing area, and I just couldn't believe what was happening. He just kept coming. He kept coming down, kept coming down, kept coming down. Meanwhile, Brick Hunters was in the back, called the Peanut Gallery. Got a number of guys out there that want to come out and just watch the show, watch the airplanes coming down the pike. And he's seen it immediately. And you only have about 30 seconds. And in fact, I recall it being 25 seconds from the time that Dino called the ball to when Matt impacted the round down. And Brick had grabbed all the folks in the Peanut Gallery, and it was just me and Pup. Pup was squarely behind on the LSO platform, and like I said, I was walking out there right to the limits of my pickle and headset, and that airplane impacted, and it was just the most horrendous thing I can ever remember in my life. A little emotional. Shipmate. You get personally involved with these guys, and Matt unfortunately would not survive that night. Aircraft impacted right at the round down, broke in half. I was standing right there, and it just got really hot. I may have had said a curse word, the F word, as I turned around and I kind of braced myself for the impact of the airplane as it was breaking apart and just engulfing the landing area. In fact, I carry catch myself here. I carry a little reminder every day. I get a little scar on my arm here. The TF-30 fan blade left its mark on me. I was looking down at my feet, and the airplane was FAMO, and it's full ammo. Sidewinders, Phoenix, Sparrow, as I recall. The airplane was completely loaded with weapons, 20 mic, and I'm looking at my feet, and I'm trying to discern what I'm looking at. It's part of a belt of 20 mic ammo and the warhead off of an AIM-9, and I hear this voice behind me, "Let's get out of here." And it's Pup McFadden, and I don't even recognize him because it was just so hot. And the scuppers were full of jet fuel, and the flight deck was on fire, and there were just pieces of airplane everywhere. And I look over, and I'm looking at Pup, and I'm like, I didn't even recognize, he'd lost his glasses in the process of the impact, and he goes, "We got to get out of here." And so I grabbed Pup, and we jumped into the net. The net was on fire and melting, and I just could not believe what had just happened. I just failed. I haven't talked about this in a long time. Sorry. But I feel like I just failed a shipmate. And not provided him the information he needed in a timely fashion to save himself, his crew, and his aircraft. So it was really tough for me. A lot of things are going through your mind. What could I have done better? It was a tough night, and it's July 20th, 1993 will forever be seared in my heart. As will Planet and Dino. Thankfully, Dino survived, but as the airplane broke apart and slid off the carrier, the Tomcat slid around, and again, I'm not a Tomcat expert, just had a brief 50 hours in it, but the trajectory of the seats were such that the pilot, the Rio would come out and go in one direction, the pilot would go out and go in the other direction to separate them in the trajectory of the ejection. And unfortunately, the way the airplane was positioned in the water, and it's really unknown, but we assume at the end of all of this that the Planet actually pulled the handle, or Dino, correct myself, Dino in fact pulled the handle to save their lives as the airplane was being engulfed with water, because we know this because Planet had seawater on his boots and his flight suit. Unfortunately, you need every bit of that airspace when you eject out of an airplane. A 0-0 seat assumes that you're going to land at the same place that you ejected from. And Planet, unfortunately, when he ejected in the water, the carrier is about 50, 60 foot above the water. He unfortunately landed in his seat and didn't get the full benefit of the deployment of the parachute in order to separate him from his seat. And he landed between the 1 or 2 row and perished, which was tragically unfortunate. And I frankly didn't realize it at the time because I'd seen some flashes and some ejections, and we had saw a pilot, which we thought was a pilot. It was actually Dino, it was a Rio, going down the port side. And we'd came back up and started the recovery efforts and cleanup. And then I was notified that that Planet had been found between the 1 and 2 row and had perished. And it was a heavy, heavy night, and it was very emotional for me. It's still emotional for me. Got Kelly up there, and Britt came up, and they recovered the other 17 pilots that are out there on final. And that was one of the deals. This is our only landing area. We were blue water ops, even though there were diverts. Those diverts were not authorized for us to utilize. So the carrier was the only place that we all had to land. There were 17 other airplanes out there that were needing to get aboard, but the flight deck was a mess. FOD is a very big concern for us, but there were pieces of metal and TOMCAT and ordnance laying all over the place. We cleaned up everything as fast as we could. We pulled the wires all off, restretched a couple wires across the flight deck, and began recovery. We launched a couple tankers to provide fuel for the airborne aircraft, and thankfully we were able to recover all 17 airplanes that were airborne. We were landing airplanes with literally hundreds of pounds of gas. Barricade fuels were acknowledged, but not considered because we only have one barricade. So as soon as you barricade one airplane, the rest of the airplane have no other place to go because of the time it would take to de-rig the barricade and re-rig the wires. So we made the conscious decision that we'll take those airplanes right down to just pounds of gas before flame out. If they got to a flame out scenario, that we'd just bring them up the port side and we'd eject the airplanes. Thankfully, we were able to expeditiously clean up that flight deck, get a couple wires stretched across the deck, and start recovery. And we were able to recover 17 airplanes without issue, didn't FOD a single motor, and that's just my bad night with the Tomcat. Tomcat was an amazing airplane, enjoyed flying it, really enjoyed the fellowship with Matt and Claire and Planet and Dino, but I'll tell you, that was a tough night for me behind the ship in the Indian Ocean as we prepared to go in the Gulf.
And see the entire film, now streaming on Amazon and Tubi TV. Or order the DVD online on our website, speedangelsproductions.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss new upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.